Neural music, and this is the Tang 8-string headless guitar. So that little demonstration was just something I made pretty quickly with the guitar, and I was using Helix Native by Line 6 for the guitar tones. First of all, I just want to go over some of the features that we have on this guitar. There's a lot of things on this guitar that have actually surprised me, especially at this price point. When I was speaking to one of the representatives at Tang Guitars, he was polite enough to send me a list of features that goes a bit more in depth rather than what was listed under the specifications of the product. First of all, starting off with the pickups. These pickups are just their own brand pickups, Tang guitar pickups. These pickups are quite high output, which is totally to be expected when it comes to 8-string guitars. As for the tone, they're quite chunky, quite aggressive, and they have a lot of bite. They're a little bit warm for my liking, but overall I still think they're a really solid pickup choice. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure what magnet was used, but if I had to guess, I would say it's probably Alnico, as it just doesn't quite have the attack of a ceramic, in my opinion. Moving on to the bridge, we've got, once again, their own brand, Tang guitar bridge. This type of mono-rail bridge system, meaning that every single saddle is kind of like its own little mini bridge. This system is quite common on lots of headless guitars, and I do have a lot of points to say about this bridge, but I'll get onto that later. The wood used for the body is ash wood. I'm not too picky with woods, but I think this is a pretty solid choice. The scale length is 25.5 on the highest string, all the way to 27 on the lowest string. The fretboard on this guitar was labeled as artificial ebony. After speaking to Tang Guitars, they told me that this is a composite wood that is made up of, I think, a couple of different types of woods to make look like ebony. Again, I'm not really that picky about what woods are used on my guitars, as long as it looks good. I chose the artificial ebony option because I think that having a black fretboard and a black body just looks badass. Moving on to the truss rod, we have a two-way adjustable truss rod that can be accessed at the very top of the fretboard. Unlike some other guitars, this truss rod is actually quite convenient, and the lack of the truss rod cover allows you to make adjustments really easily and quickly. The frets on the fretboard are jumbo stainless steel frets. There's a three-way toggle switch for pickup selection, and when it comes to knobs, there is just one knob for volume. The fretboard radius is 16 inches. There are luminescent side dots along the side of the neck, as well as a 12th fret inlay, which is also luminescent. If you're wondering what the symbol is, it's actually a stylized font for the Tang Dynasty symbol in Chinese. Okay, time to tell you all the things that I really like. Starting off with maybe a very obvious one, this guitar just looks and feels amazing. If anyone was to look at this guitar for the first time, they would just think that this is a super expensive, custom-built guitar. And every time I pick this up to play it, it certainly does feel like a custom-built guitar. The neck is really nice and thin, almost thinner than some Ibanez's I have played. Because of the way that the body is shaped, this cutout for the tuners actually allows it to sit on my lap as if I'm playing in the classical position. But also this cutaway is very suitable for just playing in the more familiar position that most people are accustomed to. I already mentioned this, but another thing that I really enjoy is the fact that this truss rod is adjustable from right here at the top of the neck. As you can see right here. The only thing to keep in mind is that you will need this truss rod adjustment tool, but you can pretty much just use anything that's small enough and is going to fit in the hole of the truss rod. It is worth mentioning that if you buy one of these guitars, they will come with all of the tools that are necessary in order for you to set it up, including Allen keys to adjust parts on the bridge, as well as different sized Allen keys to adjust the locking nut at the very top. Another thing that I think they did really well on this guitar is the luminescent side dots. Luminescent side dots are usually quite small, but I was surprised whenever I found that these side dots are almost twice the size. I don't know why, but I actually really like that, and I think they're a lot easier to see. Something else that was quite surprising is the use of stainless steel frets all along the fretboard. Stainless steel frets are usually reserved for quite high-end guitars. It's a really nice quality of life improvement, and it just means that my guitar frets are not going to wear down for years. A few more things I just want to touch on that aren't necessarily related to the guitar, but I still think are really worth mentioning. When this guitar arrived, it was very well packaged and very well protected. Even though it didn't come in a case, it was completely covered from top to bottom in polystyrene boxing, and the box itself was very well and securely wrapped. Another thing that I really want to mention is that when I was buying this guitar, I got it off AliExpress. AliExpress allows you to speak with the seller before buying a product, and I really have to say that the people at Tang Guitars were super helpful, and I couldn't have wished for better customer support. I'm still in contact with the staff at Tang Guitars, and they've even helped me with some problems that I've had even after I received my guitar. The customer support at Tang have definitely gone that extra mile and have been incredibly communicative through the whole process of me finding this guitar, to buying it, to finally receiving it. Anytime I had a question about this instrument, it was answered incredibly quickly, and I was able to find out exactly what I wanted. Thank you to Tang Guitars for all the help and all the questions you guys were able to answer. Can you hear that? It's my neighbor's BMW. Quick disclaimer though, these things are quite nitpicky and I don't think any of them are deal breakers. First thing I just want to point out is slight quality control issues. Along the body there's quite a few nicks in the paint, mainly on the front side. You can see that at the bottom, very near where the volume knob is, there's quite a noticeable one here. This is probably the only noticeable blemish in the guitar's finish. A lot of the other scrapes in the guitar's finish seem to be a lot less noticeable. At this price point, I'm willing to just accept small, tiny quality control issues like this, given that the quality of the rest of this guitar is incredibly outstanding. Another thing that I noticed with the bridge is that some of the rails don't seem to be equally spaced, and there's a bit of a gap between them. This doesn't cause too much of a problem, but again, just in terms of aesthetics, it's a minor blemish. I've tried unscrewing the rails and reattaching them to see if I can get them closer and more equally distant from each other. Unfortunately, this is something that can't quite be fixed at this stage. That being said though, I haven't noticed any issues that has caused in my playing, and the intonation sits perfectly. Another thing I would have to say about this bridge is that if you're not mechanically inclined or you don't have a lot of experience with guitar bridges, you're definitely going to want to give this to a professional. I've had quite a lot of experience with setting up guitar bridges, but even I find this a bit confusing at times. It's not quite clear how to set the action of the saddles. Also, the intonation process of each individual rail can be quite frustrating at times, as moving the rails further forwards or back completely relies on the accuracy of your hands. There's no screw that goes in or out to make subtle adjustments to the intonation. There's a part that you have to loosen, which allows the individual rail of the bridge to come free. And from there, you either have to use your hand to move the rail further forwards or backwards. The good thing about this is though that when the bridge is set up, in my experience, it has stayed there exactly the way I wanted it, and it hasn't moved since. Considering all the things I've just said about this guitar, I'm going to have to give it my seal of approval. I think this guitar is better than a lot of the higher end 7 and 8 strings. A lot of the features that you will find in this guitar, you just simply will not see on any other guitars that are under $1,000, euros, or pounds. I really wanted to make this video to talk about this guitar because I noticed that there's actually no other videos on YouTube about this company at the moment. They are a new company that just started in 2022, and I think they're off to an incredible start with their first generation of guitars. If you're interested in seeing more guitars from Tang, I will leave a link in the description of this video so that you can go and see for yourself. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.